Play-by-Play by Tony Pasqualini. Characters: Sandy Fontaine, former baseball announcer; Belle Fontaine, his wife; Alexander Pumpkin, principal of a private high school. Early afternoon, somewhere in America, a picture-perfect day.
Lunch is ready, Sandy.
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good afternoon to you, wherever you may be.
Your favorite, macaroni and cheese.
What do you think of that? My blushing young bride just set me up with a delicious-looking plate of chow. Deal me in, folks. Oh, yes, you can keep those fancy pants gourmet restaurants. I'll take my bride's home cooking any day of the week.
Eat up now, Sandy, before it gets cold.
And take a look at the gams on that young filly. I sure am one lucky man.
All right, silly, enough of that. You and I need to have a little chat today.
Folks, did you know that macaroni and cheese was invented by Thomas Jefferson's daughter? That's right. They said Old Tom returned from Italy with a pasta machine, and his very creative daughter came up with a concoction of macaroni and Parmesan cheese. Imagine that.
Sandy.
The very same lunch I'm enjoying today was being eaten all those many years ago by one of our founding fathers. My, oh my.
I've been getting calls from the neighbors. Seems that instead of taking your afternoon walk, you've been showing up at their homes, standing outside their front doors, sometimes even letting yourself in.
Hey, look at that intrepid ant, making his lonely way across the linoleum.
Mrs. Schultz told me you appeared in her bathroom while she was in the bathtub. Before she could do anything, you yelled, "From hell's heart I stab at thee, ye damned whale." Then you said, "That Captain Ahab was sure a passionate fellow, wasn't he, folks?" And then you turned and walked out, scared the poor woman half to death.
What do you suppose that ant is thinking about on his way to, where is he on his way to?
Everybody knows you, Sandy. Everybody loves you. But you just can't go showing up at people's homes. It's inconvenient. It's rude.
It might be an ant colony headed towards, or maybe he's an independent sort of hymenoptera and decided to strike out and see the world all by his lonesome. We'll never know, will we?
No, we never will. Sandy Fontaine, are you listening to me?
Folks, did you know the mighty ant can lift up to 20 times its own body weight?
Oh, good Lord.
A loud knock on the front door.
The crack of the bat, a line drive into the left field corner. My, oh my, that ball was tattooed.
Who on earth is that?
Matt Troublemaker's rounding second. He's going for three, and he's safe at third.
Hello? Anyone home? Mr. Fontaine? Mrs. Fontaine?
Listen to that crowd roar. I can barely hear myself think.
Sandy?
Troublemaker is at it again.
Is that you, Mr. Fontaine?
Do you know who this man is?
Hold on for a second, folks. Here comes manager Ed Sickley to talk to the umpires. Looks like old Ed has a couple of angry bees buzzing round his bonnet.
Good Lord, what have you done now? Yes, who is it?
Mrs. Fontaine, it's Alexander Pumpkin, principal of the Walt Whitman School. I believe we met last spring.
Oh, yes, of course. Mr. Pumpkin. Oh, please come on in. I hope this visit has nothing to do with your antics.
My, oh, stick in the mud stickly stirring up quite a fuss.
So good to see you again, Mr. Pumpkin.
Yes, sir, folks, something is sure rotten in the state of Denmark.
Thank you, Mrs. Fontaine. I wish I were here under more pleasant circumstances.
Oh dear, is something wrong? I hope not with Sandy. He's been so delighted to announce the school baseball games. It's really given him something to look forward to. And with the school being such a short walk from here, it works out perfectly.
I'm sure it has. And of course, we've been honored to have him. Imagine the great Sandy Fontaine calling the plays for our little high school. He's done such an excellent job, too. Listening to Mr. Fontaine, it's as if you're sitting right there at courtside watching the action.
That would be for basketball or tennis, sitting at courtside.
Ah, that's right, isn't it? Never much of a sports fan myself.
Folks, Stickley is refusing to leave the field.
Sandy, let's listen to what Mr. Pumpkin has to say, shall we?
That's all right, Mrs. Fontaine. Perhaps it's best if just you and I talk.
Uh-oh. Now Ed is kicking dirt on the umpire's shoes. Look at all that dirt flying, just like one of those Arabian sandstorms.
Is there a problem of some sort?
You might say that. I wonder if Sandy has a regular companion,
Oh, that would be me.
and you watch over him constantly.
Not every minute. Yesterday I was getting my hair done, for instance.
So when you are out getting your hair done, he's free to go wherever he likes.
Why do you ask?
Yesterday, Sandy made an unscheduled visit to our school.
Oh dear.
He talks out loud as he strolls around, doesn't he?
Yes, but that's not, it's just that being an announcer for so many years, it's a hard habit to break. That's all. He doesn't mean any harm.
Of course not. But you see, it was Parents' Day yesterday when Sandy arrived.
Folks, I came across an interesting word of the other day. Priggish.
That's enough, Sandy.
We were having our school assembly, and I happened to be in the middle of my speech.
It means stuffy, morally superior. Boy, we all know someone like that, don't we?
Probably the most important speech I'm required to give.
Maybe someone right nearby.
You have to understand, Mrs. Fontaine, our school survives because of the financial support of the parents. And if these individuals are insulted in the very halls of the institution they are helping support, well, you can imagine the distress that causes.
Excuse me, Mr. Pumpkin, but Sandy has never insulted anyone in his life, or never intentionally.
And yet, instead of quietly listening to my speech, he yelled out, "Hey folks, what's the ratio of a pumpkin's circumference to its diameter?" A pumpkin pie.
Well, that wasn't an insult exactly.
What's a pumpkin's favorite sport? Squash.
Those are harmless jokes. He makes them all the time.
Of course, I wasn't harmed, but what about the lessons he's teaching our children? A person should never be mocked because of their name. I'm an adult. I can live with abuse like that. I don't like it. Frankly, I've never liked it. And with a name like Pumpkin, you can imagine the sort of so-called humorous comments I've heard throughout my life. Over and over again. Ad nauseum.
Hey, folks, why did the pumpkin cross the road? 'Cause he fell off the wagon.
You see? Just like that. And after spending my childhood and young adult life as a victim of such senseless invective, I shouldn't have to listen to it in my own school in front of the entire student body, faculty, and parents. Or should I say, our students shouldn't have to listen to me listening to it. That's the point here.
Sandy always says a person will never be happy if they don't have a sense of humor.
Mrs. Fontaine, do you have any concept of what Halloween was like for me?
Did he tell jokes about anyone else? The parents or the students?
Not in this instance, no, but he could very well have. And as I said, my concern is the example he is setting, the consequences of his actions.
I'm truly sorry, Mr. Pumpkin, I am. And I promise you I will talk to Sandy. He won't be interrupting your speeches anymore.
No, he won't. Because he won't be coming to the school anymore.
What do you mean? Baseball season starts in a month, doesn't it?
Yes, but he won't be announcing any more games. From now on, Mr. Fontaine is banned from the Walt Whitman School.
Did you know Walt Whitman was fired from 4 newspapers because he was considered too radical? What a fella.
You can't do that, Mr. Pumpkin. Sandy looks forward to those games. I won't be able to stop him from going.
You'll have to find a way. Because if he shows up at our school again, I will call the proper authorities to keep him out.
That's ridiculous.
He'll just have to find another way to amuse himself.
You ever wonder why hair grows out of your nose?
I believe my work here is done.
You hold on there 1 minute, Mr. Pumpkin.
Save your breath, Mrs. Fontaine. You'll find I'm not so easily intimidated. As the principal of a high school, I spend countless hours dealing with parental self-righteousness.
Always keep smiling, folks, 'cause it brightens everyone's day.
You sit down this minute, Mr. Pumpkin. You obviously have never dealt with my self-righteousness.
Mrs. Fontaine!
Sit down. Sandy doesn't announce games for his own amusement. Never has. Sandy is a lover of people. He's devoted his life to making people happy, to giving them a feeling of home, of belonging. For decades, people all around this city looked forward to hearing his voice. Whatever difficulties they were having, whatever struggles they were in the midst of, for a few hours every day, Sandy Fontaine was there to take them to a better place. He did that. And what have you done, Mr. Pumpkin? So what if he told a few jokes during what I'm sure was an extremely tedious speech? I imagine everyone there was relieved when he spoke up, because Sandy has the gift and you do not.
What gift is that exactly?
The gift of, I don't know. I'm not the public speaker around here. What is the gift you have, Sandy?
I remember one time my father gave me a baseball glove for my 6th birthday. Best gift ever had, believe me.
Look, Sandy has done plenty of good in his life, I'm sure you're right. But all good things must come to an end. And Sandy Fontaine's end is today. Now, if you'll excuse me, I really must get back to work. Oh, and one more thing. Could I get Sandy's autograph for my brother-in-law?
Get out! Well, I guess that's that. I'm sorry, dear. I hope you're not too upset about not calling those games. Of course, Walt Whitman has a pretty lousy baseball team. Didn't have a single win last year. I'm sorry about the neighbors, too. Bunch of old fuddy-duddies, really. I'm sorry you have nothing to do all day and have to spend your time talking about ants and the history of macaroni and cheese. Maybe old Pumpkin Face is right. We're too old. Maybe we just need to be quiet and fade away.
My, Look at that big old sun ducking behind the trees. Hey, there's a chipmunk dashing across a branch. Wonder what that little fella is up to. Folks, it's good to be alive, isn't it? Here I am standing here with my honey nearby. What could be better? You all have a good night, folks. We'll see you mañana. Won't we, my love?
Yes, by God, we will.
They hold hands, looking out into the approaching night. The end.